First and foremost, thank you everybody so much for taking the time to come out here and listen to our projects. It's been a long time coming, huge accomplishment for each and every one of us, and I'm proud of my cohort and everybody. So congratulations, guys. Congratulations to us. Hats off to you guys. We've weathered a lot. So my presentation, and luckily for my cohort, this is the last time you have to hear me talk about energy, because that's been a lot, and Ted and Rob. But it's about how is California, it's entitled California Energy Innovation and Achieving 100% Zero Carbon Energy while Maintaining Reliability. And essentially what we found, well, what's happened over the course of about 2 decades, California's energy policy has completely changed, and the energy goals that we have set forth have been ambitious. California has emerged in this time as really a world leader in the energy space and the fight against climate change, and doing everything that we can to curb climate change. And it's really important that the state be successful in these endeavors, because oftentimes what we see in Californian policy gets replicated across the rest of the nation, and even in different parts of the world as well. So the state began early. I mean, energy policy can have a lot of political fallout. Some people remember back in the early 2000s with the Davis administration and the recall, the only ever removal of a governor in California because there was a lack of reliability in the energy sector and rolling blackouts up and down the state. Granted, that was due to deregulation, a whole lot of other things, but that just kind of highlights how that can impact the political, there can be some political fallout, and why this is important to the legislators and the governor and just all political leaders here. So as throughout these 2 decades, what we've seen is the creation of standards and goals and targets, and how they've gotten to be ever more ambitious as time has gone on. We've realized that, we can meet these targets, and they continue to get more ambitious. And in my next slide, I'll give an overview of some of the other legislation. But this has all just been in this from the perspective of California being a climate leader against climate change and trying to do it and reducing that in the energy sector. So, but one of the potential negative externalities that we can see of this is that this may lead to some unreliability. The perk of natural gas is you flip a switch and it turns on, and it's generating power. You can't do that with the sun. You can't do that with the wind. How do we continue to do to provide reliability that perhaps natural gas is able to provide while achieving zero carbon energy? And so to do this, we have to be innovative, deliberate, and prepared. So you see, these are just a small portion of the bills that were passed in order to over these past 2 decades, which have really accelerated and bumped up our targets for renewable energy. The first one being SB 1078 by Senator Scher in 2002, and how this created the Renewable Portfolio Standard, which really has outlined what types of energy are we going to pursue, and renewable energy, and it's very specific in it, and it really covers only a few technologies, including solar technology, wind technology, and generation, small hydro but not large hydro, so not the largest dams of the state that generate a lot of power, but smaller ones, including geothermal and a few others. But really the emphasis being, and what's happened is a build out in solar and wind power that I'll explain later on in the presentation. But as we progressed throughout the years, in 2017, it really culminated with the biggest proposal by Senator Kevin De Leon, the former pro tem of the Senate, and it bumped up those goals to require that 100% of the energy procured in California be zero carbon by 2045, which is an ambitious proposal, and it's not that far away. So what's the problem? and why. And you're talking about reliability, and it's like, well, Chris, I turn on the lights and they go on. Everything is. It's not. We usually don't have these really big issues currently. What we're seeing is that there could be an over-reliance on wind and solar power. Like I said, the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. And in 2021, renewables only accounted for 33.6% of the total energy generation in the state. When you break that down even further into how much did wind and solar account for in the renewable energy generated, they counted for 76% of renewables generated. And to be clear, the purpose of this presentation and this report is not to say, hey, we need to get rid of wind and solar. It's not a good it's important technology, and it's a key part of the technology that we need to employ in order to achieve that zero carbon future. However, we just need to prepare for some of the potential pitfalls that they may have when generation tapers off. And so the next slide is a good example. It's called the duck curve. If anybody's been into energy policy, I'm sure you've seen this. And what this does is it shows what's the demand within the general demand for energy and where it ramps up. So around 5:30 to about 9 o'clock, you see a 13,000 megawatt ramp up in 3 hours. What's happening is at that time during the day, people are getting off of work and getting home, and then they're using a lot more energy and running dishwasher, doing your other appliances. Lights are being turned on all across the state. But what else is simultaneously happening at this time? It's sometimes earlier in the year than others. The sun's going down. So solar energy is no longer being produced. So how do we grapple with a problem like that, where we see a massive ramp up, but at the same time, we're seeing less energy generated? And so there are other issues that come with this too, is that climate change is also increasing the demand. I mean, we've seen this in the form of extreme heat waves, and how across back in 2020, when we actually did have the ISO had to implement rolling blackouts throughout the state in order to make sure that the system wasn't overloaded. And so in it's kind of like the chicken before the egg, right? How we're trying to fix this by implementing more renewable energy, but at the same time, it's causing more of a strain. It's more of a problem. In addition, climate change is also reducing water storage within some of our reservoirs, because we've been in a drought for quite a while. It's just everything is kind of changing. That has been a good system of long duration storage where hydroelectric power can be used to generate at any time. Again, that flipping of the switch and being able to create power. And really, what's the reason why should the state intervene? I think that's an important question, because in my analysis, I pointed out that the state has implemented these requirements and statutorily, and has put that as a comment on its values, and therefore it has a responsibility to make sure that this shift is done thoughtfully and well, and doesn't harm the residents of the state. So there are a lot of alternatives that we can do, that we can implement, and the confines of this report required me to kind of focus on two. I was much more ambitious at the beginning, and then Ted and I had to talk about, oh well, we need to taper to scale it back a little bit. But essentially, I do want to comment on the state is on track to phase out nuclear power generation. Is actually just extended the life of one of the last nuclear facilities in this here in California, but that was admitting that recognizing that there could be shortfalls should that plant close. So I don't focus on nuclear, but I did want to make sure that I pointed it out, and that it is a clean option. However, it's too political and too much going on there. The first recommendation that I had was increased battery storage. So battery storage is a great technology, lithium, and we're talking about grid scale batteries, not necessarily the ones that the Tesla battery that you can get in your house and then have everything run out. It's grid scale battery storage, which has proven to be really promising, especially in those later hours during the day when solar energy is tapering off. It's because we have an overgeneration of solar energy during the day, and then zero when the sun goes down. But what are we going to do with all that energy that's just going, that's not even being used? So using the grid scale battery storage to accommodate those shortfalls, and really that big ramp up that you see as the sun goes down is going to be an important component of this. The state, to its credit, has made a lot of good investments in battery storage, and but it's a massive infrastructure project. And I point out and do an overview of Moss Landing, which is the state's largest grid scale battery storage. And it can store 400 megawatts of energy that can power 300,000 homes for 4 hours. But in order to, I think it was a CEC analysis that said that in order to meet the 2045 renewable requirement, it needs to build out 122 additional storage facilities of that size. So 122 of the biggest storage facility in the state that costs $400 million. That's a big infrastructure project. So the state needs to continue to fund those kinds of projects and make sure that it's helping the market move along. Luckily, what we've seen over the past, even over the past since 2017, is a dramatic reduction in the cost of creating lithium-ion batteries. As the technology becomes more prolific, the cost is going down, which I believe is a part of what the state has, a result of the investment that has been done in R&D, but also, the state has a role to play there as it continues to build out more storage facilities. The second alternative is an investment in hydrogen. Hydrogen is unique to batteries because it does come in different, it's color coded as far as not all hydrogens are created equally. So the focus would be on green hydrogen, which means that in order to create it, that it came from 100% renewable sources. So using again excess solar energy, and then separating the hydrogen atom from the oxygen atoms and water through what is called an electrolyzer, and then storing hydrogen which can be stored and then deployed at any given time. So it provides the nimbleness of natural gas, of being able to flip a switch and start generating power very quickly without the negative externalities of pollution and burning fossil fuels. And in addition, it doesn't degrade like like batteries do, and can be deployed. It can be deployed quickly and for longer periods of time too. Where as far as batteries, so the Moss Landing, it comes online for about 4 hours. So the benefits of this is that using these in extreme weather events, or during the winter, as you get near to the winter solstice. I mean, I drove over here and it was already dark, and everybody else is going home and is starting their doing all their things at home with appliances and stuff. So it is an option to deploy that in the winter as well as these extreme weather events. And in addition, there's a possibility of being able to use existing infrastructure, natural gas infrastructure, in order to deploy this more easily. So continuing to invest in hydrogen. The hard thing about hydrogen is it is not as built out or as studied as battery storage is and lithium-ion batteries. However, I think with the investments from the state and continuing to build that out, and partnering with investor-owned utilities, the UC, and other clean energy advocates, that it's likely that it'll follow the same trajectory as batteries in the decrease in cost. So really, in conclusion, I think it's important to note that that California has made massive investments. We made a massive commitment to a clean energy future and to reduction of climate change. In order to do that and to successfully do it, which is, as I already said, is incredibly important as a world leader, that we need to ensure that this rollout, that it goes very smoothly and that reliability is upheld. We don't currently have a reliability problem on the daily. We have had sometimes throughout the year where we've had flex alerts or reasons where it's like you've had to cut back, but on the daily we don't have a reliability problem. That's because we have a very diverse energy sector right now. When you start removing different components of that, and when 5% of it has to be only limited to certain technologies, storage and long duration storage and temporary storage is going to be incredibly important. So I'd like to now open it up to questions from you guys if you have any. But thank you for listening to my presentation. Yeah.
I was interested in what you call, I think, the duck bill.
Yeah, the duck curve.
Duck curve.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see in your research any existing data or any predictions for how more people working from home could affect that curve?
No, I didn't see that. I think that a lot of that is just it's research that hasn't quite flushed out yet, because the COVID, I mean, we're still in some ways, even though we've exited a lot of the COVID-19 pandemic and the restrictions, the world has changed. So I don't think that kind of research has been done yet. Haven't been enough time. Jody?
So with the hydrogen, you had mentioned using existing infrastructure. Can you do the same thing for battery storage? Like, can you we have a lot of empty industrial buildings, for instance. Like, I don't know, do they have to be within close proximity to whatever they're powering, or can you repurpose empty buildings for battery storage?
That's an excellent question. And yes, you can. And Moss Landing is a good example of that. That is a repurposed natural gas facility that they were then able to retrofit into a large scale, utility scale battery storage facility. So yeah, that is certainly an option too. Paul.
I know you briefly touched on nuclear and touched on it, or you did, but based on the research, do you think there's a future with nuclear energy in the state of California?
Oh, that is such a good question, and I really did want to touch on it, but Ted told me Ted and I was like, nope, you shouldn't do it. He's like, Chris, it's too much. And I'm like, I know, but Ted. But no, I don't necessarily. I think it's a viable alternative. The problem is that nuclear is not renewable. It's zero carbon, but it's not renewable. You need to source uranium in order to generate it, and then you have to deal with the nuclear waste. And then there's all kinds of issues of needing to be near a massive water source. So, and not to mention there are laws that prohibit you from building out other nuclear facilities. I think it is a great way to. I mean, it's one of the most efficient ways, but again, I think that there are a lot of hurdles and barriers. And Rob's up here. I think he's kicking me off. Thanks, guys.